Okay, before we continue with our next subject, that we are considering the different examples, I want to be sure that the principles that we have followed during the last consideration about the health reform is understood properly. So who is willing to present it to us in a briefly form how to explain this quotation from Counsels on Diet and Foods, which are the main principles that we need to consider. I don't expect here the exposition, cannot be done in a couple of minutes, but at least which is the order of the thoughts and different issues that we have to consider when you explain this quotation of Counsels on Diet and Foods. So if you are confronted with this situation, which will be your strategy to give an answer? This is my appeal to you today. So who is willing? Or at least who is willing to make one part, the other part, or whatever?
Well, first, you would agree that the quotation which they have presented is inspired. It's inspired and it's completely true.
Thank you. This is very important. The first element is never begun to say, oh, I don't know what this, maybe it's a letter or so. Don't say this. It's a testimony, it's a manuscript. No, sorry, this is already too far. What the brothers say is correct. Is inspired word. So, please, somebody need to come and write the first point here, that we need to agree with when somebody presented this in order to confront us and say, okay, please, don't tell me such a thing because we have this quotation, so you need to accept this quotation, okay? Acceptance of the testimony. Yeah? Okay, which will be the second point? Yes? Context, but before context, this will come. But before this, what we need to find out, because in Counsels on Diet you have only this sentence, finish. So how do you know that this is not a completely quotation? How do you know?
You have to find out that.
Yes, first you need to find where the quotation is located, okay? Okay, so you need to be clear that Counsels on Diet and Food is a compiled book. In the moment that you know this, you are sure, so, no, you need to find out the origin of the quotation or location of the quotation. Because somebody give it to you, the book, Counsel on Diet and Food, and say, read it for me, please. And you find this, and there is the quotation. You cannot deny this. But then, you need to be clear. Is this a compiled book? Is an original book? What kind of book is this? Where the quotation is? Okay? This will be our second point. So we know already that it's a compiled book. Now, when you know this, which will be the third element?
To read the complete written work.
Okay, that was never an original book because that was a manuscript. Okay? This quotation never became a book as in itself. Become part of volume 9. But if you consider the principles of study that we have presented before we began with this example, do you remember which was the first element? Yes. Time and? Place. Time and place. Okay, now we need time and place. We need to know when And where? We need to locate in time this quotation. Okay? Which will be then the next step. We have time, we have place, and then circumstances. Circumstances is the next one. Okay, number 4 will be the circumstances. Which will be the next. You need to follow what we have said in the lesson. Do you remember? Which are the next to consider? Time, place, circumstances, and then?
Activity?
The connections. And then the purposes. Connections and purposes. Es decir, reasons why. That's what's giving. And then, which is the next?
I think the next would be to consider the context and actually read the whole.
Context, exactly. Now we are in context, yes. And then which will be number 7?
How that one quotation fits into the rest of the context, or is that included?
It's included in context, which will be the next. So we accept the testimony. We find the origin of this quotation. We know where it's located. We know about the time and the place. We know the circumstances. We need the connections and purposes. We already know the context, which will be the next logical element that will follow. Yes, to come to conclusions, to take resolutions of it. So if we have considered all these things, the next point will be conclusions or resolutions, or how this applies to us. Because when we give an explanation, we need to have always a conclusion, not to explain something only to explain something. Need to have a conclusion, a specific, objective why we say this. Now, after all these 7 elements, which is the conclusion that we can achieve according to this quotation of Councils on Diet and Foods that say, that meat eating is not a test of fellowship. So she recommended that this remain like this, or what she said? The leaders, the institutions, the families, the parents, the children, the young people, the elderly, everyone needs to take a stand and accept the principles given 40 years ago. This she emphasized through all the manuscript. Okay? And why she kept this message in a delegation, full delegation of General Conference? Why? Why not in a local conference? Why not in a sermon on Sabbath? Why the Lord give to her this message to be given in this General Conference delegation? Why in a General Conference? Why need to be there? Why? Why the delegates came together? Why? Which is the reason that we will be there in South Africa? Why?
Make decision.
Yes. For example, circular letters sent with the forms to make the proposals. Because the unions and fields confront different problems and difficulties. So they sent the proposals that the delegates have presented during their reorganizations and unions and fields, came to the General Conference. The General Conference go through all the proposals, classify them according to subjects, doctrinal, administrative, organizative, no matter what kind of proposals. According to subject, they categorize. Then all these need to be translated, at least English, Spanish. And then every delegate, when come to the General Conference, receive a booklet of proposals, the agenda. And these proposals require a resolution. So the delegates in full assembly are the voice of God on earth. This is what the testimonies say, because it's the representation of all the people of God around the world. So they need to decide it and take decisions that will follow during the next administrative period and further on, because they can confirm what was decided, they can enlarge what was decided, or reformulate it, or explain better, or what is needed to be done. So why was giving this message when all the delegates around the world were present in 1909? That they take a resolution that meat eating decided by the full assembly of the General Conference need to be a test of fellowship. That was the purpose. Because until then was not possible. So the delegates from all the world there present needed to understand we need to change this way. No more allowing meat eating. Not in the church, not in the institutions, not in the ministers, and not for the new members that come to the church. They need to be taught. They needed to be explained to them how to substitute the meat eating and how to eat healthy and have a good health. So a resolution worldwide needed to be taken. Was taken? No. No. The message was not accepted. No. No resolution was taken. And it's very easy. You can go to the archives of SDA.org and look for the resolutions taken in General Conference, Washington, D.C., 1909, and you will see that not this resolution was taken. Yeah. And that was the reason why was giving in a General Conference, so that become a resolution worldwide. And then all the unions and fields with their representatives sign the resolution. Because the last day of the General Conference, when the minutes are done and all the new electeds are registered, a long list was with all the delegates need to sign the minutes. And with this is a document that the new elected persons are, according to the principles of our church, elected, all the delegates sign, and that all the resolutions are also according to the decision of the worldwide church. And then that is the last thing that happened in a General Conference, delegate session. All the delegates and all the new officers that are also delegates need, if they are delegates, they need to sign. And this is a document, a legal document. With this document, the new leadership go to the government of the General and change the leadership of the General Conference. It's a document, which is for the next 5 years, the new leaders. And everything is in the protocol, it's in the minutes. Therefore, it's very, very important when you look for any doctrinal points like this one that we will consider next, that you go to sda.org and look for in the archives, the section of the archives, and look for the resolutions because then you will know if this message was accepted or not. Because this is very, very important to come to a conclusion. This resolution was not pronounced. So this message was here, this message was written down, and remained as was, a message. But no resolution was taken. Okay? So always follow the principles. You need to bring the people to a conclusion when you give an explanation. And always ask the people if they understood, if they have questions. You cannot leave a person that you give a Bible or study or explanation. Yeah, you say it, okay, you feel complete, and what about the other one? You need to know if the person really understood, agree or disagree, or some questions remain. And all this is part of the conclusion. You need to repeat the main principles again and came to the resolution of the person. The person needs to take a decision. In every Bible study that you give to a person, the person needs to take a decision according to this. Don't give the Bible study, bye-bye, until next time. No, the person needs to take a decision every time. If they understood, if the person agree and say yes to this. This is very, very important. Don't give the message and leave the message. You need to confirm the message in the person. This can be to a person or a group of people. The same is here. You need to confirm what was saying. Okay? Questions about it? Okay. Then let us go to the next one.